Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Today we're going to take a look at the Trifuel Firman generator 3.5 years later. How did it hold up? Was it worth the investment? Is this big beast of a behemoth of a generator really worth lugging around your backyard? And most importantly, we're going to answer the 10 questions you've asked me the most over the last 3 years regarding this beast. Let's get it right out of the way. What are my thoughts 3 years later? Well, I love it. I love it just as much as I did 3.5 years ago. It runs well, it starts well, it's heavy. Did I mention it's heavy? It runs on all 3 types of fuel. I haven't had a serious issue with it. At the moment, it's $1,100 Canadian or $1,000 US from Costco. Quite often it comes $200 off, and very rarely you'll get a $300 off deal. If you came here and you said, but the ones they sell now are gray and this one's blue, yep, I've had this one long enough that they upgraded the model ever so slightly. The only difference between the gray and the blue is the color. No, I'm just kidding. Also with the gray model, they added a low CO2 cutoff. So if the carbon monoxide gets too high, this will shut down. Everything else runs just the same. So if you're wondering, how's this held up after 3 years? That's your answer. So the first key with any generator long-term is regular routine maintenance. I've recommended tons of times to run this every 2 to 3 months, put a load on it, run it longer than just a couple of minutes. You need to warm it up, get it hot enough that it burns the crud out of the carburetor. So a good solid 15 minutes under load. I recently got lazy. This had been almost 6 months since I ran it, which wouldn't have been a problem, except this is why we do routine maintenance. I went to pull it out and I discovered my trickle charger wasn't plugged in. So guess what I had to do for the first time since I've owned this? Start this from storage with the pull cord. And I showed you how much of a struggle it was. I broke a bit of a sweat doing it, but it did start. One of the big tricks that I have seen that's worked really well for me over time is starting it on natural gas and then switching over to gasoline once everything's warmed up. That has been a big help for me. A couple of bolts loosened out of this about a year ago. I found them in the routine inspection, tightened those down, and the switch between off gas and natural gas / propane is getting a little sticky. It was really hard to use this time. I just moved it back and forth a few times. Now it's working great. As far as power outages go, in the last 4 years, we've had maximum 1 per year. That's it. 2 of them are in the winter and 2 of them are just random. I've hooked this up to the whole house test. It's worked great for that. So I haven't put a ton of hours on it. It might have 100 hours tops on it so far. But overall, it's running great. So let's get to the questions you probably have. Number 1, what's the output? Gas, propane, and liquid natural gas. Well, gasoline gives you 9,400 maximum watts and 7,500 running watts. Propane gives you 8,400 watts max and 6,700 watts running. And natural gas gives you 6,900 watts max and 5,500 watts. Number 2, what about running laptops and electronics? Sensitive things like CPAP machines or expensive fridges or furnaces, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, not with this, at least not right the way it's designed. It has a total harmonic distortion. That's basically how jagged the power is, of 11 to 14%. That tells you that you don't want to run expensive, crazy electronics off of this because you'll burn them up really quick. Now, there's a workaround for that, an uninterruptible power supply or one of those nice battery-powered solar generators. You can use one of those to charge with this, then run your sensitive electronics off of that. Is this going to be big enough to run my entire home in a power outage? For the most part, yes, it will be, especially if you're running it off gasoline. The biggest problem you could run into, trying to run a central air unit and a whole bunch of other things. You could run your fridge, you can run your freezer, you can run your pumps, you can run just about everything you need, maybe a couple of stovetop burners on your range. You could even run your dryer or your stove, just not both at the same time. The big thing is your central air unit will give you trouble without installing a soft start. Question 4, where can I find the trickle charger that you didn't have plugged in this video, Tim? Well, it's pretty easy. It's from Amazon. I believe it's $20 for one or a 2-pack for 30 bucks USD. I'll have the link below, but the thing is LST for short, or Leicester. It's been that same brand for well over 5 years on Amazon. Hasn't let me down yet, as long as I keep it plugged in. Link will be in the description. Number 5, what kind of load do you put on your generator when you run it? Whatever you plug in, if you hear your generator go a little bit or have to get a little bit louder, you know you got a good load on there. Any kind of resistive load, something that creates heat, space heaters, blow dryers, heat guns, put 2 or 3 of them on there so it's pulling a lot of power out. But that's what I do. Run them for a solid 15 minutes, heat your generator up so it burns the crap out of it, and mostly pulling it out every 2 to 3 months running it, hooking it up to your various fuel sources, doing an eyes and ears inspection, giving it a clean off, and then putting it away and making sure trickle charger is still plugged in. Number 6, what do you think the most efficient type of fuel is, Tim? Well, again, that's a big it depends. If you're going for the most wattage, no matter what it costs, go with gasoline. That's the biggest one. Because again, on all these engines, you're going to get the most output out of gasoline. But if you're looking at how can I run it for the cheapest for the longest, natural gas is the answer. When you look at wattages, you basically get your peak wattage with gasoline, 10% less with propane, and 10% less than propane with natural gas. Number 7, can this be hooked up parallel? Well, if you don't know what parallel means, it's exactly how it sounds. 2 generators hooked together to combine their powers like Voltron. Simple answer with this is no. Typically, parallel generators are only for inverter generators. If you're looking at doing that with Firman, they do have a kit out there that'll allow you to hook up 2 of their inverter generators. This one, not designed for that. If you're looking at doing parallel, you got to go a little smaller, or you can always go with the Harbor Freight Predator brand. Number 8, this is one of the questions that I got a lot. Do you need to convert it in order to run off propane or natural gas? And I think this question comes from, if you've ever bought a propane barbecue that you had to convert to natural gas, and then you need to do all the little jets and everything to make it work, that's probably where it comes from. The beauty of this, there is no added parts that you need in order to run it off of natural gas. You just hook it up to that little threaded right there. Now, I did add a quick connect, which makes my life a lot easier, and then I hook up a quick connect hose. If you want to run it off propane, it comes with its own regulator that you just screw on there as well. There's no modifications that need to be done with it. You don't need to tinker with the jets. Next question, and this is more of a general question about generators, but I get asked it all the time, and it was in the comments from a couple of these videos before. How far should this be from my home? Simple answer, 15 feet from a couple of things. 15 feet from any opening, 15 feet from anything combustible if you can help it. Don't put it in an enclosed space. And even if you're further than 15 feet away, make sure you're not downwind of an open window where a strong breeze can just blow the carbon monoxide straight into the building. And number 10, does this come pre-shipped, pre-filled with oil? It comes with oil. It comes with everything you need. It comes with a nice spark plug wrench. It comes with a nice offset filter for putting the oil in, and it comes with the oil that you need. So all you got to do is install the oil, turn it on, and you're all set. And if you're not sure what kind of oil to use, just buy 10W30. That's what the manual says. You're going to need 1.1 liters of oil. They recommend doing an oil change after the first 25 hours and then after the next 100 hours of runtime. The big difference for me is I've barely put 100 hours into this in almost 4 years. I do an oil change every year. If you're running it a lot, after every 100 hours of runtime. That's the look at this Firman tri-fuel generator almost 4 years later. We're gonna say 3.5. The reason I do this is because there are so few creators out there doing long-term reviews. Everybody gets it, they try it for a week, they give you a review on it and call it quits. But this generator, this is something that's an investment for everybody. So I want you to know how it's held up for me, and I want to be honest with you about my struggles and my enjoyment with this generator. So if you want to go back and run through what I've done with this before, check out this video right here. This is the very first unboxing if you want to see what it comes with and how it's held up 3.5 years later. And if you've stuck around this long, you know what that means? I made this video just for you, so thanks a lot. Stick around, hit the subscribe button because I got a ton more content just like this. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.